it's Kim. So this is the United States Senate Committee on Finance. Sorry, my brain's not working. But anyway, this is the ranking members news. I'm not sure. I guess that's John Thune, maybe, if that's who maybe wrote this. But anyway, it's June 17th, 2025. Since we're dealing with all this Epstein stuff, people are still saying they need to release the files. So I'm just pulling up different documents, just putting them out there because we don't need them to sweep this under the rug. Hopefully something gets done. But anyway, it says following new Epstein revelations, Wyden renews demand for Trump administration to produce Epstein files. Treasury Department is refusing to produce key FinCEN, which is like the Foreign Office. It's like basically like a financial crime center or something like that. I used to work for a bank and I can't remember exactly what it means. But anyway, key FinCEN Epstein files in its possession, hampering further investigation of Epstein's financial backers and complicit banks because he did a lot of money laundering. That's what I've heard recently, where he would take money out. Like there's a certain amount that is reported to the FBI, not the FBI, the IRS, I think, or maybe it is the FBI. It could be Secret Service too. Anyway, I can't remember exactly all that stuff. But anyway, it is reported if you take out a certain amount. And I think he continually did it. And then the banks weren't doing, though. It's called a suspicious activity report on him. So anyway, let's go on. Washington, D.C., following new revelations about Jeffrey Epstein's financial ties to a prominent Trump donor and accusations regarding the president himself, State Finance Committee ranking member John Wyden, a Democrat, I guess from Oregon, today renewed his demand that the Trump administration produce key Epstein documents in the possession of the Department of Justice and U.S. Treasury. This administration began with reassuring promises that the Epstein case would receive the attention and diligence it deserves. Fast forward to the present, where the release section of the Epstein files contains little relevant or groundbreaking information, with some pages entirely redacted. Senator Wyden wrote in a letter to the Attorney General, FBI Director, and Treasury Secretary. This reversal of commitments to investigate those who facilitated Epstein's criminal activities comes as President Trump and his advisors' own ties to Epstein are exposed. Or are being exposed. Senator Wyden's initial request from March of this year sought any DOJ or Treasury files related to individuals, financial institutions, attorneys, and agents that may have known about or facilitated the financing of Epstein's illegal activities. In today's letter, Senator Wyden noted that committee investigators reviewed a portion of a file compiled by the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That's what it is. FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Okay. But that the Treasury has refused to provide copies of the documents for further analysis. Those documents contain information on payments Epstein obtained from high-profile individuals and used to traffic women or engage in dubious transactions indicative of money laundering. They also demonstrate how major financial institutions failed to report Epstein's questionable transactions in a timely manner as required by law. Senator Wyden's letter appears in full below and is available here for download. Dear Attorney General Bondi, Secretary Bessent, and Director Patel, I write to follow up regarding your failure to cooperate with my existing investigation related to the financing of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking network. As you are aware, on March 11, 2025, I sent a request to the agencies you lead for a host of documents in your possession that would shed light on hundreds of millions of dollars in payments to Epstein by several ultra-wealthy individuals, including billionaire financier Leon Black. In light of recent developments, I'm deeply concerned that the Trump administration may be withholding these documents to prevent exposure of President Trump's own ties to Jeffrey Epstein. As I said before, and other people have said, if Trump was tied to Jeffrey Epstein in a bad way, they would have already released it. Even if it would have brought down all of Washington, if they could go after at least Trump, they would have done it. So anyway, let's go on. It says, as you're aware, my original request on March 11th included new information from my investigation highlighting how $170 million of payments from Black and his associates to Epstein were used to finance Epstein's trafficking activities. For example, I provided you with a copy of a settlement agreement Black signed with the U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General, acknowledging that Jeffrey Epstein used the money Black paid him to partially fund his operations in the Virgin Islands, the Little St. James. The request also detailed how the Treasury Department's financial crimes enforcement network, FinCEN, has already compiled this information, a portion of which has been reviewed in camera by my investigative staff at the Senate Finance Committee, and that of Committee Chairman Senator Mike Crapo. I don't know. I don't want to say the other words like a crapo. Sorry. Anyway, during the first Trump administration, as with administration before that, Treasury regularly produced these sorts of documents to Congress. However, although the Treasury Department recently acknowledged it possesses the records I requested in an April 30th letter, it refused to provide copies of the documents to my office for further analysis. These documents contain extensive information on the extent to which high-profile individuals paid Epstein staggering sums of money, which was then used to move women around the world or engage in dubious transactions indicative of money laundering. These documents also shed light on how major U.S. financial institutions turned a blind eye to the financing of Epstein's criminal network, simply waiving the payments through without properly reporting them to U.S. authorities in a timely manner or timely fashion as required by law. All of the individuals, financial institutions, attorneys, and agents who participated in financing Epstein's illegal activities must be held accountable. This administration began with reassuring promises that the Epstein case would receive the attention and diligence it deserves. For example, Deputy Director Bongino said on his podcast in 2023, listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Director Patel wrote on X in February that the FBI under his leadership would have no cover-ups, no missing documents, no stone left unturned. In response to growing pressure to release the Epstein files to the public and Attorney General Bondi's mandate to release the files to her office, fast forward to the present, where the release sections of the Epstein files contains little relevant or groundbreaking information, with some pages entirely redacted. The big reveal that was promised instead consisted of Deputy Director Bongino saying, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself on Fox News last month with no additional follow-up on the promise of transparency. This reversal of commitments to investigate those who facilitated Epstein's criminal activities came as President Trump and his advisors' own ties to Epstein are being exposed. For example, Elon Musk, a former close advisor to President Trump, recently posted the following social media platform X. Time to drop the really big bomb at real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason why, if they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Elon Musk, X.com. Okay, Musk has since deleted this post, likely as a result of threats from President Trump to cancel billions in federal contracts for Tesla, SpaceX, and other Musk companies. Additionally, we learned last week that Palantir Technologies founder and Silicon Valley billionaire Peter Thiel received a $40 million investment from Jeffrey Epstein. As you are surely aware, Thiel is exceptionally close with Vice President J.D. Vance. Thiel hired Vance to work for him and contributed over $15 million to Vance's Senate campaign. President Trump also appointed Leon Blackson to lead the U.S. International Development Financial Corporation, despite the fact that Black paid Epstein $170 million for purported tax advice. Based on my investigation today in the Epstein matter, there appear to be numerous additional people who need to be held accountable for the crimes they helped facilitate. Unfortunately, your silence on this matter suggests that you have no desire to follow through on promises you made regarding transparency around Epstein's sex trafficking network. Attorney General Bondi made loud proclamations regarding President Trump's commitment to transparency and lifting the veil on the disgusting actions of Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators. Not only has that not been true, but now some have concluded the administration is covering up these documents to prevent President Trump's own ties to Jeffrey Epstein from being exposed. If President Trump himself was implicated in Epstein's network, he must also be held accountable. Of course, a Democrat would say that. But anyway, that's where we're at. Accordingly, I am resubmitting my original March 11th request for documents, a couple of which you can find attached, and request that you provide this information no later than June 23rd, 2025. Should you need assistance in locating this information, my investigators stand ready to help you locate these documents. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. I look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Ron Wyden, United States Senator, Ranking Member, Committee on Finance. So anyway, that's just one document, or whatever you want to call it, one side that's calling for this from the Senate. But I just don't understand how they flipped. They had the information, they don't have the information. They were gonna release it, gung ho to release it, then decided not to release it. So what's going on? I'm gonna look for some more like articles and stuff. But anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good afternoon. See y'all. Bye.